Welcome to my presentation about transaction of understanding at science policy interface. My name is Tomáš Michalek and I'm from Slovak Academy of Sciences in Slovakia. My research is trying to address two different gaps. A science policy gap, which stems from different preferences of policymakers and scientists. Policymakers prefer certain solutions, while scientists can offer them only probable explanations. The second gap is between theoretical approaches and empirical studies on expert roles in the process of science policy interface. This situation raises several research questions. What happens to research knowledge on its path to policymaking? How does researchers' understanding translate to policymakers' understanding? How to compare these understandings and its elements? What are key elements of understanding and how can we better define actors at science policy interface? My research is based on grounded theory methodology and qualitative data analysis. I have conducted several semi-structured interviews with dyads of interviewees where one can be labeled as a knowledge producer and the other one as a knowledge user. When I was thinking about the topic for these interviews, I kept in mind that differences in understandings are best visible if the issue is of complex quality and with high level of uncertainty. Environmental topics fulfill this condition very well, so I have conducted interviews on climate change, greenhouse gas reduction, geohazard preparedness, and water quality. These interviews were held during my stay at the Stanford University in California in 2019 and at the University of Auckland in New Zealand in 2020. I was able to identify several elements of understanding at science policy interface. First, boundaries. This includes epistemic communities, organizational culture, language and jargon, and issue framing. Second set of elements is labeled issue. It includes nature of existing knowledge, nature of research findings, and the nature of knowledge in use, together with different dimensions of knowledge. The third element are actors. It includes nature of the involved actors, researchers, networks, and personal interrelationships. The fourth element is communication. It includes frequency and timing of the interactions between the involved actors and the nature of these interactions. The fifth element is called transaction. It involves logic of decision-making and different set of perceptions leading to decision-making of the involved actors. These 5 elements of understanding create so-called bi-act metrics, which will be used in comparing understanding of actors at science policy interface. Preliminary research results from the qualitative interviews show that what is most important for the involved actors is perception, strategy, and phase of engagement. The most frequent codes include policy pool type of engagement, decision-making, and exploitation phase of interaction. The most significant differences between knowledge producers and knowledge users were found in agenda setting and policy pool type of engagement, as well as in local aspect and relationships aspect of interaction. My conclusions are 3 hypotheses. I argue that there are several sets of different understandings at science policy interface. I suggest that an uptake of knowledge is becoming an interplay of so-called elements of understanding, and I assume that the actionability of knowledge can be identified by comparing different elements of understandings of the involved actors. I believe that my research results, especially bi-act metrics, can enable better aimed communication between knowledge producers and knowledge users. Thank you for your attention, and thank you also to Comenius University, Silf Association, and Stanford University for financing my research.